The movie, Cinderella. Once upon a time, Cinderella. One day she forced herself to work. The evil stepmother wouldn't let her go to the ball. Once upon a time, there was a stepmother who had 3 daughters named Anastasia and Drizella. The next night, Cinderella, please go get some water. Yes, stepmother, I'll get you some water now. One day, Cinderella's stepmother asked her to bring water. One day, when Cinderella was about to go to bed, she entered the room. The next morning, one day, when he brought an invitation to a ball from the prince, to the royal ball. One day, the stepmother read out the prince's invitation to the ball. Anastasia and Drizella went to the royal ball. Jacques decided to help Cinderella sew a dress. One day, when Jacques saw her, Cinderella began to dress up. One day, Cinderella joyfully sees her stepmother. Anastasia and Drizella don't believe her. My dress and beads. One day, when Cinderella was crying and upset, Anastasia and Drizella threw away the dress, all the clothes. Stepmother, she says, girls, well done. One day Cinderella cries and gets upset, and she can't go to the ball without Prince Woody. One day, her dress is thrown away. Sisters Anastasia and Drizella. Cinderella is crying and upset. One day, a fairy godmother suddenly appears and decides to help her by casting a spell. One day Cinderella saw her fairy goddaughter and replied, "Hello, Cinderella." One day Cinderella said, "Hello, fairy godmother, can you conjure a dress for me?" One day, a fairy conjured a dress that she liked. Fortunately, Cinderella answered, "Thank you, fairy." One day, a fairy cast a spell on the horses and carriage. "Cinderella," she said, "what are we going to do now?" One day, fairy Cinderella, you will be late for the royal ball when the time is up. One day, when the carriage was traveling along the road where Cinderella's royal ball was taking place. One day, when the carriage was still on its way to the royal ball, to the house where Woody Prince lives with his father, who lives in a castle. One day, the carriage passed by the place where the castles were located, and the guards were far away. One day, when the carriage arrived at the castle. One day, when Woody saw Cinderella in the castle. It's been a long time since Woody knew Cinderella, a beautiful girl. One day, when Woody and Cinderella started dancing at a ball, Cinderella saw a clock that showed that time was running out. One day Cinderella was late, and the clock on the carriage was ticking. Cinderella ran faster. Woody saw her and said, "Stop." One day, when the clock was already running late, Cinderella and the prince were on their way. Cinderella ran even faster, and then even faster along the carriage to avoid catching up with him. One day, when Woody ran away, Cinderella ran faster down the hallway of the royal ball. One day, when Cinderella couldn't catch up with Prince Woody, she ran away, and no matter what, ran very fast. Prince Woody, standing nearby, was tired of running. One day Woody was standing there and got tired of running after Cinderella. One day, when Cinderella was running, she jumped into a carriage and rode a horse. One day, when the carriage was still traveling along the road, it drove up to the castle where the stepmother, Anastasia and Drizella lived. One day, when the carriage was still on its way home from the royal ball, once upon a time, Cinderella rode in a carriage with a horse along a very long road to the castle. Cinderella, having found out about this, one day saw his Prince Woody, with whom he was dancing, Cinderella, who was dancing with Prince Woody. One day, when the carriage arrived at the castle located across the street from the palace, Cinderella returned home after the royal ball. Cinderella told her stepmother how she met Prince Woody. One day, when the shoes were finally on the girl's feet, Anastasia and Drizella could not walk. Her legs were too long, and the shoes did not fit her. Her legs were too long, and she couldn't walk. One day Woody Prince saw Cinderella. One day, Cinderella's stepmother abandoned her to lock the door to the room with a key. One day, when Jacques decided to help Cinderella, she locked the door, and her stepmother took the keys. One day, when the stepmother came down the stairs, she left. His stepmother, who made him tea, makes him coffee. One day, Jacques decided to hide the tea. His stepmother didn't notice that he hid it under the tea. One day, when Jacques and Gus Lucifer saw them catching mice, Duck and Gus were running down the hallway from Cinderella. Jacques and Gus caught him. He noticed Lucifer's cat. One day Cinderella lost her shoe and ran away. One day, when Woody also caught up with her, Cinderella lost her shoes after the royal ball and ran up the stairs to the castle to get horses for the carriage. One day Woody asked, "Have you seen beautiful girls?" He replied, "No, you haven't. She came running here to find the girl who..." Jacques and Gus decided to help her one day. She left her stepmother, who came down the stairs and just took the keys. Jacques and Gus decided to help them up the stairs so they could go outside because they were tired. One day, when Jack and Gus were climbing the stairs to go downstairs. One day, the stepmother got angry at Cinderella. Jack and Gus killed Lucifer's cat after he was insulted by a bird. Once upon a time, Woody Prince. He runs down the castle corridor to see his Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a very evil stepmother. The guards took away the stepmother, Anastasia and Drizella. One day, when the guard was escorting his stepmother Anastasia and Drizella, he said, "We're going to a wedding." One day, when Woody gave her a ring, he replied, "You're going to be my girlfriend." She replied, "Yes, Cinderella, I agree." Cinderella, she once loved him. Woody Prince, who, dancing at the ball, and the stepmother, she turned out to be bad. Anastasia and Drizella, who never came, the shoe doesn't fit. Woody, when he loved her too. Cinderella Woody once danced with the girl she went to the royal ball with. Cinderella once danced with the prince, who, to the music, and the stepmother, not understanding her character, tries to escape so as not to laugh, but continues to scream. She's in jail in a police car. One day, when Cinderella became a princess, the woodpecker flew to the ball and fell in love with her. Prince Woody fell in love with Cinderella and was charmed by her beautiful smile. Anastasia and Drizella are bad sisters. The stepmother, who is her Anastasia and Drizella. Cinderella once told him not to tell me about it. Cinderella once said, "I don't need you. Stepmother, are you a bad mother that I will be friends with?" Prince Woody, my favorite woodpecker. One day Woody asked, "Will you marry me?" Cinderella replied, "Yes, I will." Once upon a time, there were Woody and Cinderella, and they loved each other. They met and really fell in love with each other, but they didn't understand each other. Woody's stepmother, Prince Charming, didn't understand either. One day Cinderella said, "We're breaking up forever, but you and I will be together." Woody replied, "We will admire you." The disgruntled stepmother wouldn't let her part. Anastasia and Drizella lived together in a castle with their mother at the edge of the world. Cinderella said, "Yes, of course." Woody once replied, "Cinderella, yes, okay." He said to Woody, "Let's go to the wedding, to the music."
Once upon a time, there was Cinderella and Woody Prince. She loved him very much. He loved her, and he loves her too. This is true love, love forever. No matter what happens, they lived happily ever after. And Woody is Cinderella, and he's kissing. They lived happily ever after.
The end. Director and actors: Yulia Klimova and Alexander Popov.